It's some kind of magic mat board is what Ted said. It's magic. So I can't tell you what it is. I'll have to kill you. So. Whoa. Okay. So I'll just glue these two pieces together, and I have this little flower pot. I could stamp on it if I want to. So that's another way to alter that. Okay. For the black, the reason I wanted these two was to do the faux graniteware technique. So if you look at these little pieces that have the little dots on them, it actually looks like old graniteware. Okay, and that's done with the embossing powders, which is really pretty surprising. So if I take the same, this time I'm going to use the black because I like this best for this technique. So I'm going to do cornflower blue. I use the larger container just for demo. It's a little bit easier, but we also sell little empty containers now so that you can custom mix your own colors, which is really cool, and I'll show you that. And then I'll also show you another way to use the embossing powders to make them have a different texture. Okay, so it's cool. So this time I'm going to do cornflower blue. So I'm just going to use cornflower blue ink. Put that on my matte mini. And I'm just going to dip it in my embossing powder, and I didn't cover the top of it because I'm going to put a layer over that. Okay, so now I have that. Okay, oops, I have this plugged in.
So it sticks with just the
Yes, and yes. So what I wanted you to know about this technique, when I first tried it on some metal, and it worked, but I used embossing ink, and what happened was, after a few seconds, it got a crack in it, and then the crack got bigger and bigger, and then the whole thing peeled off. So I wanted it to work, so I played around it. Archival ink is what works on every surface.
But Wendy, does it work on the other papers? Or
Yes, yes. Anything that you can emboss, you put the heat tool, that's not going to melt, it will work. So like this little package, this would obviously not work. So I put the heat on, this is going to be one ugly mess. But you'll see, I have, on my display board, I have 9 different surfaces that shows you what you can use it on. So it's really pretty cool. As long as it takes the heat, you can emboss it. Okay, so I'm just going to cover this up so I don't dump it. And I'll just go ahead and heat this. And you'll see I'm not using the Ranger heat tool. This is a little bit quicker, but it makes you appreciate the Ranger because this is not quiet.
Oh, that's pretty.
Okay, so that's kind of what I started with. I'm like, okay, I have this nice enameled surface, but now what can I do with it? I wanted it to look a little bit more vintage. So the color that I found that works with every single embossing powder is potting soil.
Potting soil?
Yes, which I thought it was going to be tree branch, and I kept trying it. It's like, no, I don't like that. As potting soil works with every single every single embossing powder, and you'll see it how to change the color of it.
Oh.
So it's really kind of cool because you can have it bright if your customers like the brighter colors, and if they want more vintage, add potting soil to it. So then I got that far, and I walked out of my studio and I collect vintage graniteware. And I saw this in my kitchen, I'm thinking, oh, why can't I make it look like that? And I thought, you know what, you can. So this was like, I was so happy. I called Tim, I'm like, oh my God, get a load of this. This is so fun. So, spatter stamp and Ranger's Glacier White. So if you had the Snowcat White pigment, same exact ink. So I like to leave the potting soil on there, and I don't dry it, and you'll see why. When I stamp this on here, and I'll just do random stamping because vintage graniteware looks like that. That ink is going to start to pick up some of the potting soil, and it's going to kind of darken it so it's not quite so stark. And if I just give it a blast with the heat tool, then it's permanent.
Does it melt? I mean, does it melt the embossing powder?
No, I'm just kind of want to dry the ink on there so that it's permanent.
So those that ink pad can dry on non-porous surface.
Yes, yes. So now I have this cute little. So same thing with this piece now. So if I want this over the top of it, again I'll use cornflower. Your ink, you don't really see it on the black, so you just kind of have to have faith that you put it on. The other thing I like to do is I don't put it everywhere. I like to kind of wipe it off from the edges so that it looks worn. So a lot of times I'll just take it off to the side and wipe it off. I don't want to put those crystals back in there because they came in contact with moisture. So, I mean, you could get like little clumps in there. It's not horrible if you forget to do it. It's not. But usually I'll just kind of wipe it off to the side. So you can see now that those edges are not going to be embossed. So it's that simple. So the thing I want you to see too is with the embossing powders, it dries to, or kind of melts to a textured finish. So it's kind of an orange peel finish. But if your customers want shiny, perfectly smooth, add a second layer on there and that's what you'll get. So I was going to show you that on my samples that I can find up here. So this is one layer of embossing powder. This is two, so you can see the definite difference in here. And then this is the graniteware technique, all in the same piece. And this was done with the watering can. So other options, if you look at this one, this is the regular embossing powder, orange blossom embossing powder, and this one looks a little bit different. So what I did with this one is, you'll see there's a whole lot more texture if you feel it, and it's not as shiny.
More matte?
Yes. So when we did the embossing powders, Ranger's like, so tell us what you want. What do you want this powder to do? Do you want it to be shiny? I'm like, sometimes. You're like, do you want it to be dull? I'm like, yes, sometimes. And they're like, you can't have both. And I'm like, but I do. So it was kind of like, okay, so what could we do? So we came up with the idea that to mix frosted crystal embossing powder in with regular embossing powder, 50-50 proportion, and then you get the frosted effect. That makes sense?
So that one's actually clear?
Yes, so this is clear, yes. So when you mix these together, you can see the colors are different.
Yeah.
So actually by adding the frosted crystal embossing powder, you double your colors. Because you get, you can see there's really a big difference on there.
And it's one for one. It's not.
Yes, that's what I do.
Can I see the
Yep. So, no, it's not. It's not. But I asked for a larger jar because it came in a little jar just like this, but that's not enough. Because if you want to mix, like, so for me, I have 9 embossing powders, but I also have 9 frosted colors.
So mixed the embossing.
Yep, so I have this and I have that.
Okay. Yep.
So that's your frosted one, and that's
Yes.
just a regular plain.
Yes, yes, yes. So, but, as a customer, they don't need this large quantity. This is just easier for me because I use it every day and I demo and, But for a customer, the empty jars, a tablespoon of embossing powder, a tablespoon of frosted crystal, or 2 of each, stir it up, and that's it. Put a label on it and you know what you have. So that jar doubles your colors. So I think that's really cool.
And do you put regular down first and then this, or just you go in straight in with that? If you're looking for that frosted effect, do you put an undercoat of the plain
No,
first? You
nope,
just do this.
just that.
Okay.
Yep, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'll do the same color so that you have a comparison, right? So if I do corn flour again. And normally, because this is a 2-piece flower pot, I don't do the top because I normally glue the top over it, so it's like it gives you a good place to hold on to it. Okay? And again, if you want it to be more vintage, just kind of wipe it off the edges so that it looks a little bit more worn. And then blast it with the heat tool. You can see a lot more texture in that. It's not going to be nearly as shiny. But you can still go ahead, if you want that to be graniteware, you can still go ahead and add the potting soil to the edges, and you can still make it look more vintage. Wipe that on the floor and somebody will vacuum later.
Wish you could do that at home, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
Very nice meeting you, Wendy.
Nice to meet you.